is looking at our own barriers to love, kind of like that Rumi quote that seek not for love, seek the barriers within yourself that keep you from love. And so a lot of women in the group are not dating, haven't been dating, or are in a relationship and maybe have felt closed down or shelled up or holding resentments. So a lot of the questions had to do with dating and or being in long-term relationships. So that's kind of the focus of the questions. And oh, it's on my phone. And the first question was about online dating in particular. So I just wanted to address that. Obviously, online dating is kind of the way that most people, especially in COVID times, are meeting each other. And just to have some ideas around building your this is like a hobby, dating, as opposed to something that's a necessity, or making too much time for it or not enough time for it and then feeling like it's not working either way. So if we can think of it as like a healthy hobby, that if you want to get good at something or be skilled at something, it's going to take a little bit of your time. You can't just put it out there and not give it any of your time and attention and think that it's going to build into anything. So specifically around building an online profile, one of the things that I recommend, and we talked about this in the group, is building from experiences that you want to have versus qualities that you're looking for in a partner. And I talked about how when you build from wanting to have experiences and have that very clear on your profile, it will attract others that want to have those similar experiences or same experiences. And really, you can connect with someone a lot better based on what experiences you want to have together versus what happens a lot in the online dating world, I feel like, is people will say, I like hiking, I like this, I like that. And it's not very magnetic. Like if you put on there, an experience that you want to have with another, it's very magnetic as opposed to kind of just like, want, like kind of the same thing you're seeing on every profile. So if you make your profile from a place of almost like I say like a manifestation list or a bucket list, like this is the experience I want to have with a partner. These are the things that I'd like to do together or experience together. It's very magnetic to a subset or a small percentage of the population out there, where it's kind of just like branding or it's just like creating your profile for your business or any businesses that you see. It's like, these are the experiences you want to have, which is a lot more energetically going to match you with someone who wants to have those same experiences. So that's one thing. And then the other thing that I'd say is just giving it either a little less of your time or a little more of your time, depending on where you tend to fall in the online dating realm. Some people just start swiping or just start looking at it any moment in the day, like they just have like a 5-minute window. I don't recommend doing that. I recommend being intentional. Make a cup of tea. Imagine that you're literally going into like a coffee shop and meeting different people. And if you start to think of it that way, you're going to be attracting in intentionality. So like attracts like. Every action that you take has a reaction. And so you want to be in a very intentional place when you're utilizing this format. And then it's the same for conversational, starting to chat with people on the online chat, is that you want to be intentional about what you're sharing and what you're not sharing. And yeah, really creating connection right away. One of the things that my now partner did was sent me a voice message, which was much more personal, and I could get a feel for him much sooner than if he had just written something. So utilizing just your personality, a lot of people are afraid of showing themselves, but the sooner that you show yourself, the sooner that you'll know if this person is a match for you or not. Instead of coming at it from a very self-conscious place, if you come at it from a confidence place, everything shifts because you recognize that your person is going to love even the way that you say things or the way that you talk, or it creates more magnetism as opposed to coming at it from a fear-based place, which isn't very attractive. So if you're feeling very fearful about dating, or you're feeling very fearful about opening up, then that's the work to focus on. And I would maybe recommend doing some of that work initially, maybe before dating, because if you're dating from that place, you're going to attract in either, narcissists or people that will feed off of your insecurity and or also be very insecure. So that like attracts like is very important when it comes to online dating. And I wanted to share that because I think that it's really important to keep that in mind. And then another question that I got was about, let's see, someone in a relationship. So basically they haven't had physicality, like physical connection, in over 6 months. And so she's wondering how to start to, and she's the one, it's her choice. So how to start navigating that and create connection, or create that attraction even to have that connection. Okay, so with this question, it's really important to look at the stressors that are in your life and the things that are keeping you from connection to self, because ultimately we've talked about in this journey that our own relationship to ourselves is 80 to 85% of a relationship. So if you are feeling stressed, if you're feeling detached from yourself, if you're not feeling embodied, if you're not feeling present with yourself and in your environment, then that's the work that needs to happen. When you are in embodiment and you are in touch with yourself, and it doesn't mean to say that you won't also have stressors, it's just that the stress isn't ruling your life, then you will naturally, like, everyone has a natural sex drive. And if that is not happening, then there are probably factors either involved in not creating enough estrogen or not having enough endorphins, so working out, but not to an extreme. And then also hip openers. I always recommend, yoga or stretching for women, especially if they feel like they have a low libido or they're feeling just not like connecting with their partner. Sometimes it's not that they're not feeling a sex drive, it's just that they're not attracted to their partner, or that they, are feeling that attraction towards someone else. They start channeling that towards someone else. And that's really important to remember. There's something that you're projecting onto your partner, or there's something that you're still holding a grudge for that needs to be resolved or needs to have forgiveness and work around. So that would be a time to kind of identify which one it is. If it's something that he's done or hasn't done, or you've lost trust in him, or respect for him, or something like that has happened, then that's obviously where the work is to be done. If it's more to do with just you're not having the libido for anybody, like even the self, then that's to show it might be a more hormonal thing. And especially like with the stress hormones involved, they shut down our ability to motivate that way. And one of the things to really look at with that is, do you spend time with women? When you spend time with other women, it actually increases your estrogen. And in specifics, like doing women's circles or gathering with women and having dinner together, having a meal together, not only boosts your oxytocin and your feel-good hormones in a non-sexual way, in a very like just natural community way. Women are just more community oriented as a population, and this is why this like last year has been such a hit on so many women, especially mothers, and stress levels. So gathering with women can reduce your stress levels, increase your oxytocin levels, and it pumps more estrogen in through your body naturally. And so that's really important for attraction to your partner. And that's often what we find in our women's circles is after a few women's circles, the partner is very encouraging of their partner going to women's circles, because they notice like they have an increased sex drive, or they have an increased desire to connect, even if it's not completely sexual, it's just a sensual thing. So that's really important to look at as different ways to understand why you might be wanting to withhold, or why you're not driven to connect, because it really is about intimacy and connection. Now, if there's been a break or a breach or a mistrust or a lack of respect towards your partner for an action that they've taken or not taken, and so there's been a breach to that connection, that really needs to be repaired. And, I always say this: relationships are work. They're not something that you can just kind of put on autopilot and think that you're going to get anywhere. So these relationships that we have with friends even are work. And then especially in an intimate relationship, we change, we grow, hopefully. And so as that's happening, we need to evolve with our partner. And the only way we can do that is through connection, communication, talking things through, and spending time, quality time together, as opposed to just Netflix and chill. So let's see. I think that's pretty complete for that question. And obviously, like, some of these are dependent on the individual and what's going on for them. So, okay. And I'm looking, I think I have one more question. And then if there's any other questions, I'm happy to answer them. Okay. So here's another question. Okay, so we did a meditation in the course, and it was around, we did like different chambers of the heart, and going through and feeling into those and looking at those and seeing what is happening within those different chambers, like if there's energy or hurt or betrayal or past things that you're storing there that are holding you back from really opening your heart further. And so I'm just looking, it's a long thing, so I'm just looking for the exact question. Okay, so it has to do with safety and self-betrayal. So when we did that meditation, there's an area where the person doing this felt an area of self-betrayal, and how to renew or refresh that so that they don't feel that way anymore, or that they can heal that relationship to self. So self-betrayal is a huge thing that many people never even get to in their life to get to the healing of, because we are such a culture of hi Trinity. We are such a culture of blame and cancel culture, and just like, let's look outside of ourselves to blame others. So when it comes to self-betrayal, it's really important to spend that time with ourselves and do that healing work for ourselves, so that we can understand where it was that the breach of this betraying self happened, and this is very typical, I mean, throughout our whole lives, but especially as children. What were the circumstances that made you feel like you had to self-betray, or was it a circumstance where it was for survival? And this is often the case, that throughout our lives, we might notice these time periods where we self-betrayed, but the original kind of time period of that first self-betrayal is typically in childhood, and typically has to do within family dynamics or survival, or fitting into the family dynamic for survival. So this is kind of like, even though it's a heart chakra issue, it's also a root chakra issue, because it deals with our safety and survival and our ability. In the first year of life, we learn trust or mistrust. It's like the most important fundamental wound that one can have is trust or mistrust. As a baby, are my needs going to be met? Am I going to be able to trust my caregivers? And so for many of us, we didn't have that ability to completely trust our caregivers. Either our needs weren't met, we didn't feel loved, to an extreme. Some of us experience abuse. So all of these things kind of require us to go into the subconscious mind, because that's where in the first 7 years, that subconscious mind is what's being developed. It's not going to be from a conscious level that you're going to be able to necessarily. It's pretty rare that you'd be able to heal the self-betrayal wound from that far back on your at a conscious level. It's almost like you have to come at it from a subconscious level. That's why the energetics and the energy work can be so helpful, but along with that can be the somatic work, because even if your conscious even if your conscious brain wasn't completely online yet, you don't have a memory of this time period, you aren't aware of that, subconsciously you still have areas in your body where you're carrying this or where it's affecting you. And so when those things get triggered, you might have time periods where you feel like you need to betray yourself in order to serve others or to make others happy. Now, this is especially true in relationships, and especially codependent relationships. And I would say especially within the women or the more feminine partner of the relationship. Now, again, that's not like to say that doesn't happen for men or more masculine archetypes, but it's just to say that it is very common to see it with women and with more feminine quality people that are carrying that. So with this, it's really going in and doing the deeper somatic and energetic work, which is a lot of what I offer and do with individual work. So this is something where you could work with me individually, but also just working with someone who can go in. It's not going to be very conscious talk therapy, but it might be using EMDR. It might be using tapping, which we did EFT in this program. Using those tools, using something, and really having that trust of another is so vital, because even though it's a self-betrayal, and even though it has to do with you and you and you, when you can trust a therapist, a coach, a caregiver in that way, it helps you to begin to trust yourself. It's a reflective quality. So relationships are really interesting like that, right? So if you're feeling like you're going to be betrayed by a partner and you're kind of putting that energy out there, it's typically because you don't trust yourself enough to trust that you're not going to betray yourself, or you're not going to do something that is going to inflict harm upon yourself. And so in order to kind of heal that and get through that, so that you don't bring that into a relationship, because if you do bring that into a relationship, that fear of being betrayed, you're like attracts like. So you're putting that out there, you're putting that out there, you're putting that out there. And it's cause and effect. If you're putting it out there a bunch, it can kind of come back around. Not that it always will, but it can. So to go in and do that healing work, and to do that work with self, but also with someone you can trust, and building that trust with someone that's not a sexual relationship, where it's very clean and clear, that can go such a long way towards healing this initial wound. So that was the last question that I had. Trinity or Paul, if either of you have a question, I appreciate you both being here. I did this on a whim, and I just wanted to have this. So for the women in particular in the group, but I'd be happy to take either of your questions. If you have one, you can just raise your hands and let me know. And actually, I'm just going to invite you, Trinity, to speak, and you don't have to, but I know you're new to Clubhouse. So if you wanted to, you just hit that yes. And then if you don't, it's totally okay too. But I just figured I'd invite you, since your party time, you're new to Clubhouse. So, all right. Well, I'm going to wrap up the room unless anybody has something to share or say or contribute to the conversation. Okay. I don't know. I think I invited you, but Clubhouse has been a little weird lately with bringing people up. Oh, there you go. Hi, how are you?
Hey, I'm good. I just wanted to say thank you. I had a really great time doing that Open to Love, Open to Divine. It was good.
Yay, I'm so glad. Yeah. What do you feel like the biggest thing you took away from it was? Did that make sense?
Yeah, I did like the tapping thing that we did. I'll probably look into that more and do that on my own. And then just trying to incorporate meditation more into my life. I did get something from that meditation as well. So just reinforcing things I've already been thinking about, like I haven't had a spiritual practice. I've shared a little bit of stuff about my personal life with you in other places, but like I drank heavily for 6 to 8 years, which I think pretty much squashed any spiritual connection I had. So just building that back up, and I got tools from your workshop that I think are going to help me build that spiritual connection. So
Yay, I love it.
Yeah.
I love that. And, as someone who I drank heavily from 14 to 21, I will say it can be shocking how much you can feel again, once you stop drinking, and the things that you didn't even know you were numb to start coming online. And it can sometimes be a lot, right? And so it's like so great to have tools to navigate that. So,
so true.
Yeah. So I'm so grateful for you, and I really appreciated having you in the journey. So thank you.